Have you ever stopped and wondered, what if the axe had never been invented? No forests would have been cleared for farming, no wooden houses, no ships to cross the oceans, no giant castles. In fact, many of the things we see around us today might never have existed. But here's the surprising part. The first axe didn't even have a handle. It wasn't made of steel. It wasn't even made of metal. It was nothing more than a rough piece of stone held in someone's hand. And somehow, that simple rock changed the future of humanity forever. So how did a sharp stone become one of the most powerful tools ever created? And how did it eventually evolve into the loud, high-speed power tools we use today? Let's travel back hundreds of thousands of years to find out. Long before cities, roads, or even farming existed, life was incredibly difficult. Every single day was about survival. People didn't have kitchens to prepare food. They didn't have supermarkets. They didn't have houses to protect them from storms or wild animals. Nature was their home, and nature was also their biggest enemy. If early humans wanted to eat, they had to hunt. If they wanted shelter, they had to build it themselves. If they wanted warmth, they had to collect wood for fire. But there was one huge problem. The human body isn't naturally built for survival like many animals. We don't have sharp claws like bears. We don't have giant teeth like lions. We're not the fastest runners. And we certainly aren't the strongest creatures on Earth. So how did humans survive? The answer wasn't stronger muscles. It was smarter tools. At first, people simply picked up rocks from the ground. If they found one with a sharp edge, they could use it to cut meat, scrape animal skin, crack bones, or break nuts. It wasn't perfect. It was slow, uncomfortable, and often dangerous. But for the first time, humans discovered something amazing. A simple object could make them stronger. That idea changed everything. Soon, people stopped relying on random rocks. Instead, they started shaping them. By hitting one stone against another, they learned how to remove tiny pieces and create much sharper edges. These were among the first stone tools ever made. It wasn't easy. Making just one useful tool could take hours. One wrong hit could destroy the entire stone. But those who mastered the skill had a huge advantage. They could hunt more efficiently, prepare food faster, and survive longer. Over thousands of years, people kept improving their designs. The earliest axes were surprisingly simple. A carefully shaped stone was tied tightly onto a wooden handle using strips of animal skin, plant fibers, or natural vines. Sometimes tree resin was added like glue to keep everything together. It wasn't beautiful, it wasn't perfect, but it worked. And sometimes that's all an invention needs. The handle gave people something they had never experienced before: leverage. With every swing, they could produce far more power than their bare hands ever could. One invention suddenly made countless other jobs easier. People could cut branches much faster, build stronger shelters, create wooden tools, gather firewood in less time. Even boats became easier to build. And as humans became better at working with wood, entire communities started growing. The axe wasn't just changing trees, it was changing civilization itself. Of course, these early axes still had many problems. Stone was strong, but it was also brittle. A powerful strike could crack the blade. The edge became dull after repeated use. Sometimes the stone even flew off the handle during heavy swings. Imagine spending days making an axe, only for it to break during the first difficult job. That meant people constantly had to repair or replace their tools. Still, compared to using bare hands, the stone axe felt almost magical. Generation after generation, people improved the design. They experimented with different kinds of stone. Some discovered that flint created sharper edges. Others found stronger rocks that lasted longer. Every small improvement made survival a little easier. And because of that, human life slowly became more organized. Villages became larger. Homes became stronger. Wood became one of the world's most valuable resources. But then, humanity made a discovery that would change the axe forever. It wasn't another type of stone. It wasn't a better handle. It was something hidden beneath the ground. A material that could be melted, shaped, sharpened, and repaired. For the first time in history, humans were about to leave the Stone Age behind and enter the Age of Metal. The discovery of metal didn't happen overnight. It started with curiosity. Early humans noticed that some strange-looking rocks behaved differently when they were placed into a very hot fire. Instead of turning to ash, they softened. When they cooled down, they became hard again, but now they had a completely different shape. It must have looked like magic. Without realizing it, people had discovered one of the greatest inventions in human history: metalworking. The first metal used for axes was copper. Compared to stone, copper was much easier to shape. If the blade became dull, it could simply be sharpened again instead of being thrown away. But copper had one major weakness: it was soft. After chopping a few trees, the edge could bend or flatten. It was an improvement, but it still wasn't the perfect solution. Then came another breakthrough. People discovered that mixing copper with another metal called tin created something much stronger. That new metal was bronze. And just like that, the Bronze Age had begun. Bronze axes were tougher, sharper, and far more reliable than anything humans had ever used before. Wood cutting became faster. Farmers could clear forests in less time. Carpenters could build stronger homes, bigger boats, and better tools. As villages grew into towns, and towns became powerful kingdoms, the axe quietly played a huge role in building the world. But humans weren't finished improving it. Deep underground was another metal waiting to be discovered: iron. Unlike bronze, iron was much more common, making it easier to produce in large amounts. Learning to work with iron wasn't easy because it required much hotter furnaces, but once blacksmiths mastered the process, everything changed again. Iron axes were stronger than bronze and lasted much longer. For the first time, people had a tool that could survive years of hard work. Forests that once took weeks to clear could now be cut down in days. Wooden bridges connected rivers. Large houses became common. Massive ships carried explorers across the seas. The axe was no longer just a survival tool. It had become the tool that helped build civilizations. Of course, not every axe was made for cutting trees. As different jobs appeared, different axe designs appeared too. Some had long handles for powerful swings. Others had shorter handles for better control. Some had wide blades for chopping logs. Others had narrow blades made for shaping wood with precision. Then came the Middle Ages. Blacksmiths became true masters of their craft. They learned how to heat iron, hammer it into shape, and cool it carefully to make it even stronger. Eventually, they began producing steel. Steel changed everything. It stayed sharp longer, it resisted breaking, it could handle much harder work than iron alone. For woodworkers, steel axes were a dream come true. For soldiers, they became powerful weapons. The famous Viking warriors carried axes that could split shields and armor with terrifying force. Knights and soldiers across Europe also used different types of battle axes during wars. But while history often remembers the axe as a weapon, its greatest contribution was always peaceful. It built homes, it built farms, it built ships, it built entire nations. Then came the Industrial Revolution. For thousands of years, almost every axe swing depended on human muscles. But steam engines and powerful machines were changing the world. Factories began producing axes much faster than blacksmiths ever could. Because of mass production, ordinary workers could finally afford high-quality steel tools. Logging became a huge industry. Entire forests were harvested to supply wood for railroads, buildings, furniture, and paper. But even the strongest person could only swing an axe for so long. People wanted something faster, something easier, something more powerful. And once again, technology answered that challenge. In the early 1900s, engineers created one of the most revolutionary cutting tools ever invented: the chainsaw. Instead of one powerful swing, a fast-moving chain covered with sharp teeth did the work hundreds of times every minute. Trees that once required dozens of exhausting axe swings could now be cut down in just a few moments. For professional loggers, it completely changed their lives. Soon, electricity entered homes and workshops. Electric motors replaced hand power for many jobs. Woodworkers began using electric hatchets, powered splitters, circular saws, and many other machines that made cutting wood faster, safer, and far more accurate. Today, we even have battery-powered tools that fit inside a backpack. Some can cut through thick logs in seconds. Others use laser guides, smart sensors, and safety systems that automatically stop the blade if something goes wrong. Think about how incredible that journey really is. It all started with someone picking up a sharp stone from the ground. That tiny idea slowly evolved through thousands of years of trial, failure, and improvement. Every generation made one small change: a better stone, a stronger handle, a sharper blade, a tougher metal, a faster machine. None of those inventions happened overnight. They were built on the ideas of the people who came before. The modern power tools we use today may look nothing like the first stone axe, but deep down, they all solve the exact same problem: helping humans shape the world around them. The next time you see an axe, a chainsaw, or any cutting tool, remember that you're not just looking at a piece of equipment. You're looking at hundreds of thousands of years of human creativity, problem-solving, and determination. From a rough stone held in someone's hand, to powerful machines that can cut through giant trees in seconds. The axe didn't just evolve, it helped humanity evolve with it. And who knows, the next chapter of this incredible story may already be waiting to be invented.